Welcome to Your Vote here on Your TV, and we are featuring our mayoral candidates from Bracebridge tonight. On the floor, we have candidate Rick Maloney. Rick, thanks very much for coming in tonight. We have candidate Mike O'Para. Mike, thanks very much for coming in tonight. And candidate Paul Campbell. Paul, thanks very much for coming in. Appreciate it, gentlemen. Before we started, we ran through a selection of names to find out who would be starting first. And of course, candidate Rick Maloney will be starting out. And just as the rules go, Rick will have the first opportunity to start with opening statements. Mike will have the first opportunity to start with the questions. And then Paul will have the first opportunity to start with closing statements. Gentlemen, you understand this? Perfect. All right. Also, each question, first of all, the opening statements will have 3 minutes. When we run into questions, you'll all have a minute to answer. I will be timing. We've gone through the process of that. That will be followed up by a 2-minute debate or discussion period. Then we'll move on to the next question. And finally, for the closing statements, again, you'll all have 3 minutes each. Do you all understand those rules as well? Yes. Thank you. All right. So we are going to start off with the opening statements. And as mentioned, candidate Rick Maloney has the floor. Mr. Maloney, you have 3 minutes starting now.
Well, thank you, James, and thank you, Cogeco, for hosting this event. I know that many of you are aware of my community involvement over the past 20 years. I'd like to start off by sharing a little bit about myself. I'm married to Jennifer, my partner of 38 years, and we've lived in Bracebridge for over 35 years. It was a return to her hometown for her and an opportunity for us to plant our roots and raise our family. We've been fortunate to raise our 2 children, now adults, in Bracebridge. Like many families, we spent countless hours at the arena, the pool, the soccer field, the baseball diamond. Jennifer and I have lived in the rural part of Bracebridge for the past 17 years, and I've just recently retired from a career with the Correctional Service of Canada. After 10 years as school board trustee, in 2010, I was elected as Bracebridge councillor for Macaulay Ward and appointed deputy mayor. In 2018, I had the support of the residents of Bracebridge to serve as district councillor, and more recently this spring as appointed mayor by my council colleagues. Over the past 12 years, I've leaned on my broad municipal experience to provide leadership on many fronts and help guide council through challenges and opportunities. I've developed important and ongoing relationships with my own council, my district council colleagues, mayors, provincial and federal leaders, the local business community, volunteer organizations, and citizens from all corners of our community. I'm proud of the many projects that I've been seen to come to realization. After 12 years of planning and hard work, shovels are in the ground to bring a modern, expanded library to our community and replace our 80-year-old arena. I'm proud to have championed public transit, active transportation, community support initiatives that include bringing forward a resolution for increased funding for sexual assault counseling service providers across the province. Bracebridge has a rich history and heritage, and we must take every effort to preserve our small town character. I'm often asked what will happen to our historic Carnegie Library. Without doubt or hesitation, it must remain in municipal ownership with appropriate use. It's imperative that we protect our history. I believe it's overdue that the Bracebridge establishes a Heritage Committee under the Ontario Heritage Act to ensure our historic architecture is preserved. On day one of this new term of council, there will be no hesitation on my part to carry on my duties as mayor, to be fully engaged, connected, and ensuring that issues important to the residents of Bracebridge remain in focus, like affordable rental housing, health care, an active and mobile community, and connected and not isolated communities, supporting a vibrant business community and protecting our natural environment, which includes revisiting both southern and northern bypass corridors. I will continue to bring energy and strong leadership to new council and will continue to keep residential taxes in check while managing the growth of a community that is both dynamic and ever-changing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Maloney. Mr. O'Para, you're up next. Give me 1 second, and you have 3 minutes starting now.
Thank you, James, and thank you for Cogeco for having us. By now, to the residents, you've probably received this card in the mail. I urge you to look at it. The top is Save, Don't Pave. That's one of the major themes of my platform. Save, Don't Pave, and we'll get into that later. But you can go to my website, protectbracebridge.ca, and take a look at that to find more information. Bracebridge, this is perhaps the most important election in the history of Bracebridge. It's a fight for the heart and soul of Muskoka. The next few years will determine if we can preserve the reasons why we are here in Muskoka. Should Bracebridge become just another suburb that we see in the Greater Toronto Area, the next elected council will be making those decisions through the new official plan and zoning bylaw. The current town council has ignored your concerns and votes against your interests. The current town council, it's an old boys club, and that's the way they operate. They operate for special interests. They're not representing your interests. We are seeing the destruction of the natural beauty and tranquility of our beloved town of Bracebridge and Muskoka. There's a couple of developments. Most of you have not heard of the Fowler Mega Quarry. It has disastrous consequences for the town of Bracebridge. There's a major lead problem in the water. There'll be 600 trucks a day going through the town, silica dust in the air, round-the-clock operations, blasting. You'll hear the blasting. I've heard blasting today. Boom, you're going to be hearing this. It's 900 acres of destruction. People come here for the natural beauty and tranquility, not for the mega quarry. And unfortunately, council and the appointed mayor are in favor of this destructive proposal. Then we had the proposed Muskoka Royale development. The current town council, they want development at all costs. They ignore your concerns, ignoring just plain sensible stewardship of the environment. They want to pave and not save. Now, we've had clear cutting of trees. You see on Manitoba Street, the massive clear cut. This should never have been allowed. At Taylor Road, at the roundabout, another massive cutting of beautiful white pine trees. Never should have been allowed. I'd like to talk a little bit about respect for taxpayers. We have in Bracebridge and in Muskoka the highest water and sewer rates in Ontario, and they're set to go up again. Why is that? How come they're the highest in Ontario? My proposal is to freeze them. And council, during a pandemic, in the last 2 months, raised their pay 17% and 20%. We need to end conflicts of interest by councillors, end supplier gifts to councillors, and halt the reckless borrowing.
Thank you, Mr. O'Para.
Thank you.
Mr. Campbell, you have 3 minutes starting now.
Thank you, James. And I'd like to thank Cogeco for presenting this debate. And I also would like to thank the viewers for viewing it. We've had a very difficult year. We've had actually a difficult 2 years dealing with the COVID crisis. We've had businesses closed. We've had our churches closed. We've had our schools closed. We haven't been able to see or visit our elderly parents in the nursing homes for 2 years. I can go on and on. It's been difficult. It's time to put our town and our lives back together again. I am running for mayor because I have the skill, knowledge, and experience to take our town into the future. We have to deal with the lack of housing, the lack of affordable housing, the high levels of taxation, and the high levels of debt that we've acquired and accrued in the last few years. We have to control the rules and the regulations that we have created also. If I'm elected mayor, I will manage the town affairs fairly and honestly and professionally. With inflation at its highest point in a generation, food costs 9.7%, largest increase since 1981. Groceries are up 14%, mortgage rates are up 2.5%. As your mayor, I will look for solutions that may provide relief, which hopefully will leave a little bit more money in your pockets. Now, more than ever, we need leadership that is strong, bold, and has a vision. We need policies that will grow the economy, policies that will create opportunity, policies that will not stifle investments. And we need to limit the red tape that we now have. But most of all, we need leadership that can get things done. Municipal governments have been deemed the lower tier government, but this is the government that controls the roads that we drive on, the fire service that we have, the community centers, the collection of solid waste, the parks, the recreational programs that are created, the bylaws that we create, and it's got many, many other duties that I won't get into now. It's also the level of government that you get to know the employees, you get to know your councillor, and you get to know your mayor personally. You'll see them walking on the street, you may see them in restaurants, and you can talk to them. It's the most accessible government that we have.
Mr. Campbell, I have to cut you off there. Unfortunately, we're at the 3-minute mark. Thank you very much. We are going to move on to question 1, gentlemen. And arguably, this is the topic of discussion that is happening around most tables, around most water coolers, around the streets as well. Taxes. The cost of living is going up everywhere, and residents are looking for ways to keep costs down. As mayor, what direction would you give to find a balance between necessity and financial responsibility when it comes to taxes? And Mr. Opera, as mentioned, you will start this round.
Yeah, thank you for that question. Yeah, thank you for that question, James. It's right that we have to keep costs down, but the way the municipality's been run right now is not keeping costs down. We have supersized the debt. The municipality just borrowed $50 million for the community center. Went over budget by $50 million. Terrible. We can't afford that. Keeping costs down, water and sewer rates. The highest in Ontario. We should keep that. I propose to freeze that. Council, 17 to 20% pay increase. Why? Bidding and tendering, we are losing millions of dollars to sole source contracts and inside deals. And it's been brought up to council, and the appointed mayor refuses to do anything about it. There's millions of dollars in savings. There's major questions regarding bidding and tendering. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Opera. Mr. Campbell, you have 1 minute.
To respond to your question or respond to the answer?
To respond to the question.
To limit the taxation that we've got, there's 2 ways to do it. Either we can stop or limit our services, or we can be more effective with the services that we provide. I would choose to be more effective with the services that we provide. That will not lower, but it will stabilize the taxation rate that we've got. And if we can stabilize it with inflation at 8, 9, and who knows where the inflation is going to take us, that will be saving us money in a roundabout way, if you understand what I'm saying. As far as our wage increases to council or to the mayor, if you've got a progressive and active employer or employee, they are worth the funds that you pay them. I don't have a problem with paying proper administrators, and that's what council and the mayor are.
Cut you off there. Thank you very much. Mr. Maloney, you have 1 minute.
Well, thank you very much. I'm a little bit taken back that Mr. Opera would suggest that the multi-use community center known as the MLCC is $50 million over budget. That would mean that the project is $25 million, which is absolutely ridiculous. It is a stipulated contract that has a guaranteed price. We have worked 12 years to ensure that we had the fiscal plan behind this. There will be no increase to the tax levy as a result of what we've planned in terms of the MLCC, so I find that a bit disturbing. We have kept taxes in check for the last 4 years, under 2%. As a matter of fact, 2 years ago, 0% increase on the tax levy. At the same time, we're getting downloaded from the province with all kinds of new programs that we have to be responsible for. And quite frankly, we've done a great job at doing that, and I would challenge anyone to suggest that this council, this town is mismanaged financially.
All right, gentlemen, we are moving into our first debate period. I can kind of see where this is going. So if we can keep, first of all, it's going to be 2 minutes that you'll have. I am going to cut in if I feel that conversations are going over each other to allow each candidate to speak. Other than that, it is an open floor. Any of you can answer any time and respond to each other at any point. So with that, I'm going to start this open forum right now. We have 2 minutes.
Yeah, I'd like to respond to Mr. Maloney. This was supposed to cost the town $16 million, the multi-use community center. Now, the town is having to pay $65 million, the town portion of the community center, because you didn't get the federal funding. Costs went up $25 million. You went to the district a couple of months ago to borrow $50 million to get that approval. And it is so bad at the previous, at low interest rates. If you read the reports, it's going to cost 17 to 20% of town revenues are going to go to pay for this debt.
Mr. Maloney, you can answer anytime if you like.
Mr. O'Para, $16 million is ridiculous for, I don't know where you get that figure.
The town portion, the town portion.
If you let me finish.
Please let Mr. Maloney finish.
I'll let him finish.
It's ridiculous that you suggest that this is $16 million. The build has obviously tenders and the work that we expected came in a lot higher, but we were still able to manage that. And when you say that we went to the district to borrow $50 million, lower tier municipalities have to go through the district to get the approval to get a debenture. Every municipality in the province of Ontario needs to do that.
Mr. Campbell, would you have any chance to respond here if you'd like to?
Response to the...
To any of the statements that were made so far?
No,
Okay,
no.
Mr. O'Para?
Yeah, well, I urge the residents, if you don't make government accountable, who will? Go and look at the agendas and the reports. It's clear that it was supposed to cost the town $16 million. Now it's costing $65 million. They gave a sole source contract to their friends at Fowler. Again, special interest. There was no bidding or tendering on it.
Mr. Maloney, just a quick response because we have 15 seconds.
I would challenge Mr. O'Para to bring truth to the words he says about friends and Fowler and other companies. I have never been begotten to anybody, and quite frankly, I find it a bit offensive that he's suggesting that I am on
Gentlemen,
the
we're gonna
Gentlemen,
we're gonna stop right there
Yeah,
and we're gonna
okay.
move on.
But
Thank you.
But it's not fair.
I
He said
understand,
that I suggested
Mr.
he was on the take.
Mr.
I'm not
O'Para,
suggesting that.
we have to move on.
But I
we're
know
gonna
what he means.
we're gonna go ahead and move on here.
Thank
Question number 2. Bracebridge's success has relied in some part on the backs of local business owners, boosting the economy and bringing in tourism dollars. Many of our local business owners have felt the intense impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, and now they continue to feel the strain as many business owners struggle to find enough employees. As mayor, what direction would you provide to help ensure that our local business community is supported? And fittingly, I think, Mr. Campbell, you are the first one to answer this question.
The most that the local government can do to support the local businesses is create affordable housing. If we do not have a place for residents, permanent residents, or people that are coming into the town to live and to get employment, then we will not increase our employment levels. And in return, our businesses will not have employment or employees. The most that this council and mayor should be at the highest priority is housing. And I know we've been speaking of this for decades now, but we actually have to do something. And I understand that it's the district's responsibility and it's the provincial responsibility. If I'm mayor, I will take it on as a municipal responsibility. There are ways to work around to get affordable housing to our community. We need that to keep our employees here. If not, they're going to go where they can live.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Mr. Maloney, you have 1 minute.
Well, thank you, James. I would just say that I don't disagree with Mr. Campbell at all about the role of municipalities, in particular the town of Bracebridge, in supporting affordable housing. I will say from an economic development standpoint, we are fortunate that our downtown is a very vibrant downtown. There is a wait list for businesses to look for retail and commercial space. I'm very proud that as a district councillor supported the Muskoka Business Recovery Plan, which saved about 750 jobs across Muskoka that about 150 businesses took advantage of, and leveraged about $5 million in loans for businesses during COVID. I'm also very proud of our community improvement plan, which is $100,000 of seed money that goes directly back into investment into our community and our businesses and turns into about $1 million worth of reinvestment.
Thank you, Mr. Maloney. Mr. O'Para, this is your opportunity, 1 minute.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about the businesses on Manitoba Street in the downtown. I think our downtown is in trouble. That's what the merchants tell me. They are in trouble. Why? Because the appointed mayor and members of council are not listening to them. They have just gone through a 2-year pandemic where they had lockdowns and nobody supported them during the lockdown. Nobody said, well, how come, the big box stores can have all these people in and we can't have 1 or 2 people in our shops? They continue to close the main street of downtown, and people cannot access it during the busy weekends during the summer. Talking about affordable housing, the housing that's being built right now is million-dollar housing, and it's going to speculators. And people should know that the housing around, the land around Bracebridge is owned by special interest, big people from out of town, from overseas. And they are speculators. It's speculative housing.
Mr. O'Para, I have to cut you off there, and thank you very much for your answer. Again, gentlemen, we have 2 minutes for an open discussion here. Again, I will invite you to cut in as you will. I will try to police as I can, but we have 2 minutes starting now.
Well, I would just add that, you know, as Mr. Campbell said, we do have a vibrant downtown, and I think that there's really great examples of the entrepreneurial spirit in our downtown. I look at the Clock Tower Retail Center, where young persons, particularly young persons, are able to start new businesses and then expand those businesses. And I'm very pleased to share that one of those businesses, Daughters of India, is now moving into a larger space in the downtown core. It's that type of investment that we've done in our community that instills a entrepreneurial spirit and builds our downtown to be vibrant.
I believe Mr. Campbell did have something he wanted to say.
Yeah, regarding the downtown core, I happen to have spent many, many years and have had a number of businesses in the downtown core. And I'm just going to speak of one. It was I purchased a store called the Factory Store, employed about 20, 25 people. Murray Clark, which was the CEO at that time, met me and he shook my hand. He congratulated me on my purchase. And he said, Paul, if there's anything the municipality can do to help, we're here to help. And I said, Murray, the downtown core and business community, all we need is you to plow the streets, keep the lights on. I'm not saying that to be smart, but I am saying that business owners and entrepreneurs are resourceful, and we don't need constant handouts or gifts or directions from any level government. We do appreciate if they've got ideas and
Mr. Campbell, I think Mr. O'Para does want to make a point too before we wrap up here.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Good point, Mr. Campbell, by the way. The downtown core, they just went through 2 years of lockdown. Now they're going to get 2 years of a sewer and water main construction, and they're going to tear up the whole downtown. 2 years, they're going to go through misery. A lot of businesses have said, we're going to go out of business in these 2 years. They can't take it. That's like 5 years of reduced revenue. How can they do that?
Mr. O'Para, I have to wrap you there. And gentlemen, I'll just remind you that you can cut into each other if you need to make a point. I can invite you to converse, but please feel free to jump in as you would like to make points during those conversations. We are going to take our first break. We're going to take a little breather here, get a chance to have a drink of water, give you an opportunity to quickly visit the washroom at home, and we will be back with much more to discuss here on Your Vote. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Your Vote here on Your TV. And if you are just tuning in, we are joined today by the mayoral candidates for the Bracebridge municipal election. Of course, we have candidate Rick Maloney, candidate Mike O'Para, and candidate Paul Campbell. Candidates, thank you very much for joining us today. We are jumping right back in, and this next question is another favorite in the community: housing. It's an issue that needs to be addressed by all levels of government. But on the municipal level specifically, if you were to become mayor, what would you do to ensure that more affordable and attainable housing is available? And candidate Maloney, you are starting off.
Well, thanks very much, James. First of all, you know, the challenge that we have in Muskoka and specifically Bracebridge is that our median employment income is about 20% lower than the provincial average. So first of all, you know, if we're going to address the housing problem, we need to address the challenges that people have in terms of living wages in our community. Part of the challenge that we've got too has been the fact that we lost our designation as northern status. And that had significant dollars coming into us for employment programs, for healthcare, for housing, and for economic development. Just recently, I've petitioned the minister and spoke to him about getting us back into that northern status. And you know, although I have some Not a lot of hope, but we're continuing to do that. But at the end of the day, I think when we talk about housing, it's all about partnerships, using and leveraging municipal dollars, federal dollars, provincial dollars, and working with nonprofit organizations like Habitat to create affordable housing in our community.
Thank you, candidates. Mr. O'Para, you have 1 minute.
Well, let's talk about housing. The land around Bracebridge is controlled by just a few people, and the housing that's being built isn't being built for the residents of Bracebridge. They're $1 million plus homes, and they're bought in a lot of cases by speculators, overseas money. This does nothing for local people. We need less expensive housing to be built. But let's talk about the district housing. The district's got to get its act together, because some of the district housing that's now looks like a slum on the outside. I've canvassed there, and I'm going like, if this is the way it's going to be operated, someone else should be operating it. It's an absolute disgrace. As to wages, we need to have maybe a tech hub here, a startup hub, to actually provide good jobs and higher paying jobs. Getting grants from other governments, that only lasts a short period of time, and then they cut you off. Let's put real jobs into Bracebridge.
Thank you, Mr. O'Para. Mr. Campbell, you have 1 minute.
Regarding the housing issues, we can talk about, one more time, funding from the province, from the district, from the federal government. We've been talking about it for decades now. They send us a little bit of money, we build a couple of units, and the district maintains the units. My approach is, and the municipality's approach should be, zone for higher density, smaller units, work with the private sector. I don't want the government to take it over, but I want government, the municipal government, and if we can get district and provincial to work together, but make it easier and more accessible for the private sector to produce and to maintain these properties. If they maintain them, we don't have a constant draw on the taxpayers of Bracebridge to pay the bills. We have to do it ourselves. It's been proven that higher tier governments are not assisting us the way that they should.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Again, gentlemen, 2-minute opportunity to openly discuss this starting now.
Start off, James, by saying absolutely agree with Mr. Campbell that the federal government just announced a few weeks ago that they're building 17,000 homes across Canada. Well, that's a nickel in a bin for Bracebridge. That doesn't help the problem. And I do agree that it's going to be multi-levels, nonprofits. I'm really pleased to hear of a project that Habitat is doing that's going to have affordable rentals built with the cooperation and assistance of the town and the OPP through the Solicitor General to build housing that they will be able to provide at a very reasonable rate. And that's partly because the District of Muskoka provides up to $80,000 of affordable to any affordable rental unit that's built in the municipality. And that's money that organizations like Habitat are taking advantage of and using that and leveraging that to bring affordable housing to our community.
Well, some good points here, but I'd like to make a comment, and that's on the rezoning for higher densities. The provincial government had a plan, they backed off before the election that they would allow every single lot in Ontario, every house to be turned into a fourplex. You could build a fourplex as of right on every lot. That's the appointed mayor's friends. They want to do this. Be very careful. It's talk now to do that in the GTA, but the original talk was anywhere in the province. As to grant money, we're not going to solve the housing problem in Bracebridge and Muskoka. It's going to have to be done at the provincial and federal level. Part of the problem is that we've got very high demand. Canada spends more a percentage of its economy on housing, and it just can't keep up with the demand.
Well,
Quick response. We have 8 seconds. Go for it.
I come from the private sector. I've been in the private sector for 40 years. We make things happen. We don't continually talk about it, wish it, or any of the others. What I'm saying is the municipality, under my leadership, will get things done. We will work cooperatively with the district and the province. And we expect...
Sorry, I have to cut you off there. I gave you a little bit of time, but we were running close. Again, I'll remind you, gentlemen, don't look for me for permission. Just cut in if you have a point that you'd like to make. Again, I would ask you to please be respectful, but at the same time, if you would like to make a point, please do cut in. We're moving on to the next question. And this is continuing the conversation on housing. What are your thoughts on the current status of short-term rentals in Bracebridge? And if you become mayor, what would your direction be to council and staff regarding dealing with short-term rentals? And Mr. Opera, this is your question to answer first with 1 minute.
That short-term rentals have been a pretty hot topic. And part of the problem is that Bracebridge has had no bylaws in this respect. Other places had bylaws 20 years ago, and I wonder, what's it take so long to get anything done in Bracebridge? They had 20 years to fix this. In terms of very short-term rentals, it's been a problem with bylaw enforcement, excessive noise. A lot of the cottagers pay very high taxes, so if they can rent their place for a week or two and it's done respectively, I don't have a problem with that. That's totally something, you know, based on the very high taxes they pay, and they want to keep their properties. And
You're done?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. All right. Mr. Campbell, 1 minute.
Short-term rentals, I agree with them. It's a source of revenue for the people that are owning these, and I'm going to talk in town, not the cottage people right at this moment in time. The cost of living in Bracebridge, Muskoka, and in the province is quite high. These people have invested large sums of monies in their properties and their houses. We've got bylaws in place now for noise bylaws, an amount of cars that are parked in driveways. It's endless. If we enforce the bylaws that we've got and we inform the homeowners that this is a short-term rental, let everybody know what short-term is short-term. Muskoka Lakes, I understand their plight, but they have their own association, which I explained to them. Let them police with our backup, our bylaws to back up their authority.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Mr. Maloney, you're last to answer this 1 minute.
Okay, thank you. And certainly, you know, short-term rentals offer an opportunity and provide additional income for families for sure. And it also allows some families to keep cottages and property in the family name. So there is an economic benefit to short-term rentals. The challenge is the few absent and disengaged property owners that have allowed irresponsible renters to upset and disturb neighbors and neighborhoods. So we as a council have taken steps to create a Made in Bracebridge short-term rental bylaw that will include licensing components and enforcement teeth that will penalize non-compliant owners.
Fantastic. All right. Gentlemen, again, 2 minutes, and please don't look for my permission. Please start.
well, licensing of people, that seems to be a good thing. There's some drawbacks to that, but the problem is we haven't had a bylaw. It took them 20 years to get their act together. The bylaws, the existing bylaws are not enforced. You can't expect Muskoka Lakes Association or someone else to enforce the bylaws. The town has failed to enforce the bylaws, and it seems the same places get the same calls. And it's not fair to neighbors if they have a new tenant next door, because that's what it is. If it goes one day, you have one person next door and another person next door renting. It does something to the peace and security of the neighborhood when you have that kind of excessive short-term rentals, like a Airbnb that's flipping over and parties are going on. It has to be done responsibly.
We speak of affordable renting, and then we continually put restrictions on people that may be able to offer some accommodation. What we have to do is not continue, and I'm not saying open the floodgates to anybody and everybody. We've got ample bylaws and rules and regulations in place now. What we have to do is let some of the citizens create a little bit of revenue, like Mr. Malone, like Rick has said, and let them continue to afford their houses and enjoy their property that they have. We cannot continue to restrict the citizens of Bracebridge from doing anything. And I understand if we have problems with neighbors that are loud, but that's why we have a bylaw and we have a bylaw enforcement team.
Yeah. Well, let's see.
Very
it
quick, Mr.
enforced.
Maloney. Sorry, Mr. Maloney, just very quickly.
Yeah, I think that it's important also to consider other short-term rental challenges, and that's floating accommodations. I can tell you that it's a wild, wild west when it comes to floating accommodations out there, and I know that some municipalities are challenged with that. I have actually taken a proactive approach and delegated to the Minister of Natural Resources and Forestry and shared the challenges and concerns that we have, that the province needs to be able to tighten up
I have
some
to stop
rules
you
and
there, Mr.
regulations.
Maloney. Sorry, we do have to stop there because we do have to take another break. Gentlemen, thank you very much. We're going to take another quick break, folks, another washroom break for you. We'll be back with much more discussion here on Your Vote on Your TV. Welcome back to Your Vote on Your TV. We're in our final leg of today's forum with our Bracebridge Mayoral candidates, and we're going to jump right in here because we are running a little tight on time. So the next question is, 2 new hospital sites are expected to be coming to both Huntsville and Bracebridge, possibly in the next 15 years, to replace the current aging sites. The District of Muskoka in 2021 estimated the local share amount to be somewhere around $74 million. This necessity of funds may directly impact property taxes of residents in all municipalities, including Bracebridge. As mayor, how would you direct the council and staff to provide necessary funding with the least impact on taxpayers? And forgive me, I'm forgetting who we started with. I think it is going to be, yes, Mr. Maloney, thank you.
Last question.
You have the last question, so sorry, Mr. Campbell, you are first up in 1 minute.
How it will impact the local residents, it will impact them. How I would direct council to deal with that problem is there's very few ways of dealing with it, other than being more efficient in all the other services that we have created and that we provide to the public. We've got if the 74 million number is correct, which I expect that it is not, if it's 15 years down the line, it's probably 120 million if we take inflation in and the rest of cost overruns. I don't know what the population of Bracebridge is going to be at that time. We've got estimates out at the 20%, 25% increase, but the question was taxation. We will have to pay for it. We will have to increase the tax level, and the only way that we can control that tax level will be through efficiency and dealing with other issues that the town has.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Mr. Maloney, 1 minute.
Obviously a very concerning issue, and an issue that I brought forward to the Minister of Health just last month. And I said to Minister Sylvia Jones, I said, Minister, this is really just another taxation on the public, because there's no way that municipalities have the ability to pay a bill of $72 million. The foundations are going out and seeking money and foundation money from benefactors, and we've got great support for our hospital. But that balance is then going back to the same people. And quite frankly, the taxpayer can't be burdened with it. It can't be on the tax levy. And I am fighting vigorously to get the attention of the provincial government that local shares need to be abolished or capped so that we have flexibility, hospitals have flexibility, and spread the burden over and keep it off the municipal levy for sure.
All right, Mr. O'Perra, you're last.
Yeah,
in a
well,
minute.
74 million, Mr. Campbell says 120 million. The way things are done in the current council, the bill will probably be 150 million or 200 million. We can't afford it. It shouldn't be on the property tax. One issue that has come up is that the subdivisions that are being built and that have been proposed, they're not paying their fair share of development charges. You already have on hospital levy on your bill. Why should we have high levies on property taxes for hospitals? New people come in, and the subdivisions are being built. The infrastructure is not there, and we can't afford to pay for the infrastructure because the landowners and the subdivision developers have not paid their fair share to keep to expand the infrastructure that we have.
Thank you. Gentlemen, just in the interest of time, we're going to keep this at 1 minute for the discussion period, and you start now.
So I would just add that, I firmly believe that healthcare and hospital construction and filling all the equipment that's in a hospital is a provincial mandate. It's not on the property tax levy. It's like education that's on the property tax levy. These things should be paid and spread over the burden of all Ontarians so that we ensure that we have across this province adequate health care that services everybody. And it's not depending on what your economic ability is to pay to have all the equipment that you need in a hospital.
It's nice to say that this money is to be spread over the province. And it's nice to say that the legislation is that the province is responsible for healthcare, which it is at this moment in time. But remember, there's only one taxpayer, whether we pay our money to the province, municipality, or the district. But who knows what 15 years will bring us. I expect that it will be downloaded, like education, like the OPP.
We'll have to stop there. Sorry, gentlemen, we need to move on. Next question. As the town of Bracebridge continues to grow with more developments cropping up across the municipality, there are questions and concerns from community members on how much of a factor environmental protection is in these development plans. As mayor, how would you find the balance between development and environmental protection? Mr. Maloney.
Well, it's a two-sided coin. On one side of the coin, you have the environment. On the other side of the coin, you have economic development. And I absolutely agree that we have to be concerned about the protection of our natural environment. At the same time, we are a growing community. Mr. Opera speaks about freezing water rates and freezing development. That doesn't help a growing community, doesn't bring affordable housing, doesn't bring jobs. At the same time, this community, Bracebridge, has been the first community in Muskoka to declare a climate emergency, and it's taken real action by implementing our first climate action plan that will set goals that will reduce our municipal greenhouse effects by 50% by 2030 and a net zero by 2050. I think there are things that we need to do to reevaluate our impact on the environment. I mentioned them earlier. The northern and southern bypass, hardened infrastructure, not needed.
Thank you, Mr. Maloney. Mr. Opera, 1 minute.
Well, definitely the bypass corridors are not needed, and we can't afford them. In terms of environmental protection, the proposed mega quarry will destroy parts of this town. We're going to have 600 trucks going through it. Mr. Maloney supports this plan. It's a ridiculous plan. We're going to get 600 trucks with diesel soot, health and safety, all around blasting, threats to the water supply. The lead from there will end up in the water supply of Bracebridge. And Mr. Maloney supports this plan. The planners come out and say, oh, it meets the rural character. But no questions asked, the appointed mayor supports it. This mega quarry, it's going to have a 100-year impact on Bracebridge. And guess where all the gravel and rock are going while they're destroying our natural environment here? It's headed down to Toronto.
Thank you, Mr. Opera. Mr. Campbell, 1 minute.
We often speak of opportunities, creating opportunities in Bracebridge, which we need. We also need to create more jobs, and we need to pay, as they say, well-paying jobs. I personally think any job is worthwhile having, but we seem to be stuck on well-paying jobs. We cannot have and we cannot attract the people that we require to do these well-paying jobs, to grow our community, if, I'm going to go back, that if they have got no place to live. We cannot continue to put the restrictions. As far as the environment goes, I'm very environmentally sensitive. But we have to permit growth in the town to grow the economy and the town as a whole.
Gentlemen, we have a bit of time, so we're going to give 2 minutes on this for the discussion, starting now.
Well, I guess what I would add, James, is that, listen, I appreciate that folks and Mr. Opera talks about a quarry. That is lands that have been zoned for the last 25 years as quarry extraction lands. The town has been asked. The town has been asked.
Just let Mr. Maloney finish.
The town has been asked on a very simple question: does the applicant meet all of the checks and balances it's supposed to do? Council has not made a decision on this yet. But I can tell you that I have listened to the folks along that corridor. I am a resident in that area as well. And I have listened to the folks along that corridor who have concerned today, not about any future extraction, but today about the safety of that road and the challenges it has. And I'm committed to work with them and the district to make sure that that road and their lives are much more safer.
Mr. Opera, you can respond.
Well, this quarry, Mr. Maloney is telling residents we're going to widen the road. The widening the road's not the solution. This quarry should never have been approved in the first place. There's a small quarry there. They want to expand it by 10 times. They want to go from 30 trucks a day, which is already a problem, to 300 trucks a day. 600 truck movements. in one day. It's unbelievable. 150,000 additional trucks coming through our town. It's mind-boggling. Some of those trucks are going to be going through the downtown. They're going to be going on Highway 117 East.
Gentlemen, just in case anyone missed it. Mr. Campbell?
I'd just like to speak on that. And it's not, I don't want to leave the impression I'm not environmentally sensitive. I am. But the impression that I want to leave is that we've got to give hope to the people in Bracebridge, the younger generation. We've discounted them almost to zero. They don't have housing, they don't have jobs, and if they do, they're low-paying jobs. We've got to get them elevated so that they can support all the retirees and the rest of the community.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. We are going to cut it there as we're now close on timing again. We're going to go to closing statements. And Mr. Campbell, as mentioned, you are starting with the closing statements. Just to say, we have cut it down to 2 minutes as agreed by candidates. So 2 minutes, Mr. Campbell.
I'd like to thank you and Kojiko one more time. As you can pick up or may have discovered from my discussion here, I am a very serious man. I'm serious about the town, I'm serious about the growth of the town, and I'm serious about the citizens of the town. My beliefs and core values are honor, fairness, and responsibility, both fiscally and socially. I will expect the same from our municipal employees, our contractors, and our consultants. I will represent all Bracebridge residences with no pandering to the influential people of Bracebridge. If you want to live in a town that you would like, then you don't have to go on a trip to another community and say, this is beautiful, this is beautiful. Real towns are made by men and women that are brave. They're not afraid to make decisions. Everyone has got to work together to make our community vibrant. Your town is what we will make it. This is your town. Thank you for listening, and I hope that you've learned something about your new and next mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Mr. Maloney, you are up next for 2 minutes.
Well, thank you, James and Kojiko, for hosting this candidate forum. I want to take a moment to share what I think a mayor is. First, he or she carries one vote and one vote only. Council is a democracy, not an autocracy. No one person makes the final decision. It's all about collaboration, consensus building, and relationship building, something that I have worked on for 12 years as deputy mayor and now mayor. It's about being present and approachable in the community. Being mayor is a full-time, 12-month-a-year position. It's about being a strong voice around the district table to keep the interest of the residents of Bracebridge at the forefront. It's about being this town's biggest cheerleader and at times the strongest shoulder to lean on. Being a good leader is not just about one's opinion or stance on an issue. It is about vital attributes, characteristics, and qualities that contribute to the long-term and short-term well-being of a community, now and to the future, ensuring that Bracebridge continues to remain a great place to live, work, and play. On October 24th, I am asking for your support to continue as that mayor, your mayor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Maloney. Mr. O'Perry, you have the final word.
Thank you for hosting this, to Kojiko. Thank you, James. Save, don't pave. You've listened to the other candidates. The acting mayor is pave, don't save. The quarry, for example, 900 acres of destruction. 900 acres. It's going to completely turn the town upside down. And they tried to hide it. They held the planning meeting just before Christmas. Nobody knew about it during the pandemic in 2020. We have to look back, will future generations look back and say that our generation allowed the destruction of Muskoka or preserved Muskoka? Together we can preserve our precious Muskoka environment and create a sustainable economy for Muskoka. We don't have to end up like another suburb, because we will, under the acting mayor's plan, we are going to end up like a massive suburb with huge traffic jams, air pollution, water pollution. It's a total disaster. So take a look at my website, protectbracebridge.ca. I will look after your interest, not the special interest that the current mayor and members of council want to look after. It's been an old boys club. It's got to change. Now is the time to change it. When they get a hold of the official plan, They're going to have all their friends in there and special interests, and these things like the mega quarry, which is a ridiculous proposition, are going through. We're in 2022, not in the 1950s. The mega quarry in Muskoka Royale and all these other developments that they support, you know, where the developer comes in, clears the land, blasts it flat, that's 1950s, not 2022. And they vote for it. Every time they vote for it. Before the election, they come to you and they genuflect and say, yeah, we're listening to you. And then they just plug their ears and vote for their friends. This is what's happening in this town, and that has to change. And there are a lot of other good candidates who want to change that.
Mr. O'Hara, I have to just cut you off there. We find ourselves actually with a little bit of extra time, so I'm going to play a fun little game that I like to do, which is, what does your first day in office look like? And you're going to have 30 seconds to answer. So we'll start with Mr. Campbell. You have 30 seconds. What does your first day in office look like?
My first day in office looks like I call my management team in. We have a nice discussion about how the municipality is being run. I listen to their input, what their duties, what their jobs are. I give them what my outlook for the community will be, and that I hope that they will uphold my wishes. And we just have a general discussion, and we talk about how to improve the town and make it more efficient and more cost efficient for the taxpayers of Bracebridge.
Thank you. We're going to actually go counterclockwise to Mr. O'Hara. 30 seconds. What's your first day in office
Well,
like?
first day in office is I'm going to bring in the business people and the townspeople and residents, and we're going to hold a town hall, and you will decide how we're going to move forward and where we're going to move forward. Take a look at my pledge to you and my platform on protectbracebridge.ca. It's not going to be the town staff who decide. They've already decided on the mega quarry in Muskoka Royale. They don't know. All they care about is pleasing the special interests. I want your interests to be looked after, and you should be at the town hall. They should be reaching out to you.
Mr. O'Hara. Sorry, thank you very much. Mr. Maloney, 30 seconds, first day in office.
My first day will be starting to initiate what I call the Mayor's Roundtable. It's going to bring back around the table to have frank discussions with stakeholders in this community. We have not spent any time this evening talking about those that are marginalized in our community, people with mental health, addictions, challenges with poverty. I'm going to bring the organizations that are out there at the field, at the grassroots, around the table and talk about real solutions, how we can help everyone in Bracebridge, because our town is a great place to live and play, and it should be for everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Maloney. Gentlemen, thanks for that. And thank you very much for coming in today. We really appreciate all the discussions from the three of you gentlemen. And I would like to wish you the best of luck when it comes to the election as well. Thank you so much for all the work you've done today and taking the time. And to you, our viewers, thank you very much for watching today. And a quick reminder that the election is coming October 24th. Please go to your municipal website, make sure you are registered to vote, and make sure that you vote on October 24th. Thanks again for watching Your Vote. Tune in again soon.